Hi again. So we're back with the second part of the series, What Makes Our Inner Work Work? And we're talking about the sensitive spy and the loving detective. And at this point, if you want to understand more, you need to find part one of this meeting. We're talking about all sorts of really good questions for the sensitive spy or the loving detective that we are becoming to ask ourselves. So another good question would be, where do I not have free choice? So this is in continuation with what we were talking in the last part. Questions that have to do with the amount of freedom we already have in our life, okay? Where do I feel locked up or obstructed or tied up? And how do I, find the way out from this prison? Another really good thing for a loving detective to start lovingly exploring is asking something like, where did this start? Or where is this coming from? For example, let's say that I have something that isn't working in my life, that I experience as a problem. For example, I can't find a partner in my life, or I have money problems, or I can't feel relaxed. It can be anything. So the good tracker or the good loving detective or the good sensitive spy would very calmly ask, okay, I have this problem. Now, how do I follow it to its root cause? In my past, perhaps, sometimes in another life, sometimes in another galaxy, but very often in my own life, perhaps in my childhood, perhaps it's something else. And then when I'm well attuned, I can start following the clues and following this trusting that if I listen carefully and I do the work, I will get to the source of this problem. Now, it's very important to remember that some problems have more than one source, okay? So we might, for example, begin by looking for a certain inner self, an inner part that is creating this problem, and we'll work with it. And then we will probably find that, yes, things perhaps improved to a certain degree, but perhaps this wasn't enough yet. And then perhaps we'll start following the trail, and perhaps we'll reach a certain time in our past, or something that we were told by our parents, or all sorts of other things that we can actually go and heal. Okay. And then perhaps in some cases that would be enough. And in other cases, there will be other sources that kind of combine into this entangled knot that we've been talking about once in a while, and we'll talk about more in future meetings. Another good question to ask is, it might sound weird, but who's at the door? Now, from my point of view, and in my experience, our inner parts, and also all sorts of collective things, and all sorts of our past versions of ourselves, or our we'll call them our past selves. For example, 3-year-old Ora or 20-year-old Ora, and so on and so forth. It very often seems that they really want to be heard. They want to be acknowledged. They often want help and need help. Okay, and it's usually in our very, very high interest to offer them this help and to find them. So very often these parts are actually knocking on our door. kind of notice me, let me in. But very often we're not listening to the door because we're busy doing other things, or perhaps we're afraid of meeting whoever is on the other side of the door. So actually agreeing to listen to the door and to responsibly open it. And sometimes we need help in order to do that, especially in the beginning, but not only in the beginning. Okay. Now, there are many, many other things to mention here, but let's talk about one of the main things that we should all learn to use. So one of the best signs and clues for the loving detective is all those things that we have judgment about. Okay, now this is a classic, but the fact that it's a classic doesn't mean we actually, do the work. So if I'm extremely judgmental about anything, whether it's inner or outer, whether it's a politician or a country, a religion, the weather, a book I've read, or whatever, it's always a wonderful clue that can help me find inner parts that I'm still not aware of and that I'm still not accepting as my own. So I'm still not embracing them. And if I'm not embracing something, not only does it tend to very often be projected on the outside world, on my children, on my friends, on reality, actually, it's not only that, but because I'm not accepting a part of myself, it can wreak a lot of havoc inside of me because I'm not aware of it and it's working sort of in the dark. Okay. So it's as if it's backstage and I only know what's on stage, but it's doing stuff there, okay, that I don't know of. And it's causing a lot of problems. And another important thing to recall, to remember, is that a part that I do not accept in myself is like a gaping hole in my completeness. So if, for example, you can imagine yourself for 1 second as a potential ball, okay, that can be very, very complete, okay, and beautiful without any missing parts, then each and every part that I project on others and do not accept in myself is like a hole in my completeness. And if I have a hole, then I become, less powerful, less stable. More things can kind of enter my inner space and my, kind of bring all sorts of things that shouldn't be coming in to my inner space, bring them in because there's this hole there. Okay. So it's one of the more difficult things for us to do because when we judge something, it's very difficult for us to say, if I'm judging this, then I must have this thing myself too. If I'm judging hate, then there must be a part of me that hates or that can hate. If I'm judging weakness, there must be a part of me that I don't accept that feels weak, okay? And so on and so forth. Now, a reminder, from my point of view, when I accept a self or a part, whatever it is, the actual act of acceptance creates change in the part, okay? And then more can happen. But even the very, very beginning of simply agreeing that this is mine and it's not out there to be judged is a beginning of a healing and of a transformation. And even the worst part, worst in the way that it's causing a lot of trouble for me or for others, has a gift for us. But in order to get it, we have to be a good detective and to figure out what's really going on here when I'm judging, and then do the work of taking responsibility for that. Okay. So to sum up this, bit of the question, the sensitive spy and the loving detective ask, what is it that I do not see in myself and I only see and judge in others or out there in the world? Okay. And another good question would be, who can I still not feel compassion for? This does not mean that you agree with anything that happens. You can say it is absolutely wrong to harm somebody else, okay? But you can have some compassion for both the inner parts that are capable of harming others and not allow them to do it. And you can have compassion for people who harm others without agreeing to their actions. Okay. Another thing that our sensitive spy and our loving detective learn to do more and more is when we are in front of this amazingly entangled knot of ourselves and in the universe. If we're calm enough, it'll be much easier to discern where to begin untying the knot and how to go about it. And if we're calm enough and we don't entangle with the entanglement, then we have the patience to not pull and push too hard on the knot, because what happens when we do it too quickly and too intensely. It just becomes even worse. Okay, so having this gentle hand, this calm spirit to pull out one string and then another one and then another one and then another one, and it all becomes a little bit easier. So the detective asks, where to begin? I see there's a lot of work, but I'll do one step at a time, no problem. Okay. Another important thing I'd like to mention here is the question, who said this? Who's thinking this? Who's feeling this? It's a kind of responsible listening and very attuned listening to what's going on inside of us. Okay, so it's not just somehow going with the flow without really noticing what's going on. And it's not only being mindful, it's more than being mindful. It's asking at least once in a while, I'm feeling sad. Which part is feeling sad? I'm feeling happy. Which part of me is feeling happy? I had this weird thought just now. Who is thinking this? And then you can again follow the threads and follow the crumbs and follow the clues and figure out who said it. And your consciousness can broaden like that. Okay. Another good thing to ask is, what may be stopping the flow? What may be obstructing my organic development? Okay. So from my point of view, we're trying to allow as much as possible for a kind of flowing and organic and natural development to occur, because that is the best way for things to happen. It's not always possible, but this is what we try to enable within us and within others that we may be working with. So if you imagine that there is this kind of natural flow of a process of becoming more and more complete, of becoming more and more free, of becoming more and more balanced, empowered, and all sorts of other valuable things, you can start asking as a detective, what isn't helping the flow, or what is making it very difficult for the flow to continue? Okay, and then try to figure out what it is. Is it an inner self? Is it a belief from when I was 18? Okay, that is still running my life? Is it perhaps something from a different life? Or perhaps it's something collective, like I was brought up in a kind of culture that believes that, I don't know, that women are less than men or whatever. Is it perhaps, without me noticing, making it kind of impossible to develop naturally? Okay, or is there a part of me that is making too much effort and that is trying to drive my growth in a way that isn't natural, in a way that is power driven and kind of ego driven perhaps, or isn't very relaxed in a way? And that can lead us to all sorts of inner selves that may be running our lives. For example, perhaps we have an ambitious self that wants us to become really, really spiritual, really, really quick. Okay? And then if I'm identified with this self and it's running my life to a certain degree, it might, try to push me into a kind of development that isn't the natural development for me, that isn't the organic growth of my self, of my personality, of my life. Okay, so that's another very good question to ask ourselves. I think I will, we will probably get back to all these things in other shows, but I think perhaps we'll stop today with the question that I also think is really, really important to ask. So imagine yourself as being a loving detective or a sensitive spy, and you're relaxed and you're interested in what you are exploring, and you want to solve the mystery, or to solve at least another step in this mystery that is yourself. And you can ask, what or who is running my life? Which inner parts are running my life? What outside me may be running my life? And what are my automatic ways or my strategies for avoiding things that I don't like to feel, such as pain or fear or doubt or weakness or rage or anything else? What are my automatic ways and strategies to avoid danger or perceive danger? What are my strategies or my automatic ways to stay unconscious? Because some of our parts would rather that we stay unconscious. They have their reasons. If we only listen to them, we'll know what they are. And what are my automatic ways and my strategies of survival? And what, asks the sensitive spy, are my strategies and automatic ways that help me feel wanted, accepted, loved, appreciated? So with this, we will end the second part of our show. Unless there is any question, if there is, please raise your hand. And if not, we will meet again next time. So thank you all very, very much for being here with me, whether you're here in the Zoom room, on Facebook, or in the future on YouTube. May we all somehow work together and help each other on the way. And try, please, to not only listen to this as an interesting point of view, but try to actually do the work, because this is really what matters in the long run. And this is what the actual work that we do, sitting in front of our computer or whatever it is what grows our garden and makes it possible for us to reap fruit. Some of it soon and some of it later. Okay. So thank you all very, very much, and see you soon.